Hello, hello. I am just getting a little situated. How are you guys all doing? I hope you guys are very well. All right, I'm digging it. I'm trying a new setup. So let me know what you dolls think if you like it. I think you're going to be able to see more of Celli this way. And I know that's what you guys are all here for. You're here for Celli. All right, that seems pretty good. I want you guys to see a little more of Celli, though. Let's see. Yeah! That's what we want. All right. So if someone in the chat could give me a thumbs up if you hear me okay, that'd be great. I really appreciate that. Weather's been wacky because Mother Nature can't decide if it's going to be winter, spring, or summer. So all right, so for today, thank you for that comment about the sound. So my mic is actually down by the F holes. It's over here. So you guys can hear the cello. So I'm gonna have to speak a little louder. If you can't hear me, please let me know my voice. All right. So today we are talking about Bach again. And everything I'm going to tell you dolls about is relevant to all of Bach's music, really. No matter if you're a cellist, a violinist, a wind instrument, no matter what, these tools are super essential to learning Bach's music. Okay? So I'm going to go through some basic music theory first, and then we're going to apply it to some of the Bach Cello Suites. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Anything not related to Bach, just general cello questions. I always make the joke, this is your chance to ask me a question for free. Okay, so I love to use these to also do demos for you guys. Okay, so we're going to talk about music theory real fast. It's so important. And it's especially important for Bach because if you think about it, a lot of people consider him kind of the grandfather of classical music. And he set a lot of his writing really set the standard for how future composers set up their music. So in a way, knowing music theory is kind of like knowing the formula for classical music, Baroque music, and then in the Romantic era, composers start experimenting more with harmonies and kind of breaking the rules, but you can still see the influence of the rules that were set up in earlier times by composers like Bach. So we're going to talk about some music theory. And what I'm going to talk about is a general, quick, easy method. Because There could be so much more. I could have a whole YouTube channel about music theory and Bach. Seriously. So I'm going to cover kind of the general basics today, but this is far from everything. Okay? So we're going to talk quickly about chords, harmony, triads, and for those of you who might not quite have encountered that yet in your cello training, this is going to be a great overview for you guys. Okay, so when you dolls warm up and you play your scales and your arpeggios, we're going to focus on the arpeggio really quick. And let's take G major. If you play a G major arpeggio, okay, that is essentially a G major chord or triad. 3 notes. G, B, D. 3 notes, G major. That's your triad. Okay? So we just played a G major chord. And in chords and harmonies and our scales, there are certain tuning rules, practices. I have a video about this on my channel, by the way. If you guys search cello doll intonation, I have an intro video if you guys are interested in learning more about tuning. But we're lucky we play a string instrument because we can adjust our intonation. We're not a pianist who can't adjust. They can't micro wiggle the strings or anything. When they play a key, that's the pitch. So since we can adjust our intonation, we're going to follow certain rules of just tuning. It's called just tuning. One of them is the third of your scale or triad. The third note, which is B, G, A, B, the third is a little lower. And a little lower meaning if I were to turn on my tuner and get a B in the middle, I want it to be a little flat actually for it to be in tune within the key of G major. So we're not talking about tuning to the needle on your tuner. We're talking about the intonation within the key. Okay, I'm going to try to speed through this. So the third is lowered. The sixth is also lowered. Now, if I play an in tune E, it sounds kind of weird. Do you dolls hear that? This versus, so this is an E, perfectly in tune according to my A string, but now if I play it in the context of a G, I just had to lower it. So I went from about and now it's better in tune. Textbook example. Okay, so thirds lowered, sixths lowered, and then we want to raise the seventh or the leading tone to apply tension. Wait, okay, the F sharp wants to go back to G, so we raise it a little bit more. Okay, so this is kind of a great rule for a linear or horizontal line in Bach. Here's a great example, opening of the third suite. You have a C major scale and a C major arpeggio. So I'm going to make the B a little higher. I have the third, little lower. Another E. Okay? And that is going to be more pleasing to the ear than if I were to play each individual note perfectly in tune with a tuner. Because this way I'm tuning the notes in the context of the piece, which is C major. Now, I know this is a lot. This really is a lot. And so if you dolls have any questions, please, let's fill up this chat, baby, with all the question marks, because I really want to help you guys out. This is an idea that I only started learning about recently, working with my current teacher for the past 3 years. He is super, super knowledgeable of Bach. He studied with Pablo Casals. And he is so knowledgeable of the Bach Cello Suites. So his way of seeing this is really revolutionary to me. So I really want to share it with you all. First question, Guerin Ritter. It's good to see you. Welcome. Can you turn the tuner into just tuning mode? Is that a thing? I don't know. I don't think so. That's a really good question. I've never heard of a tuner that can do that, but what you can do, and my tuner has this, you can use a drone. So, hold on. I don't want to kill anyone's ears. Hold on. So if your tuner has a drone, you can put it on the pitch. I had it on C, and you can actually tune a section or a melody to the tonic. And what I mean by tonic, your key. So if you're in G major, put your drone on a G and slowly play the passage. So I've never heard of a tuner that can do that. If you know of one, I would love to hear about it. Someone should really invest in that technology. That would be amazing. I hope that helps. Okay, so we talked about kind of tuning horizontally. And I gave you the example of the opening of the third prelude, but that's a pretty obvious one, right? It's a scale and an arpeggio. So I'm going to take another example. I'm going to take the sixth suite. I'm working through it with my teacher right now. And I'm going to go to the Allemande. I'm sorry, Bach. So this is really sad. I lost my cover. My cover fell off last week. It's very sad. I've had this sheet music since I was 18. So, Okay, so the Allemande, we're in the sixth suite. So we're in D as in dog, D major. And the opening of the Allemande so I'm going to stop right there. We have D, A, F sharp. D major chord right away. And usually, especially in Bach, always, your first bar is going to be your home key, D major. But there, I just picked out one of our triads. Okay, so I know I'm in the key of D. So C sharps, we want them to be higher. B's are sixth. Lower. Same thing with our thirds. Okay, so if I go through the first, we're going to break through this one measure, but if I start the first measure of the Allemande, lower, D, the D has to be pure, right? That's our home key. I raise the C sharp. My D's still sharp. Well, that doesn't help. Ah! Okay. So I'm sorry, guys. This has been me practicing all day. My cello's really cranky with the weather. That's all within D. Okay? So I take the rules for the D major scale and I apply it to that opening idea. Okay? Now, when I'm saying the scale, lower the third, lower the sixth, raise the seventh, this is also an idea, especially lowering the third. You do this in your chords. So in the opening, we have a chord. So I lower my F sharp a little bit. Okay, and now we have a funky chord immediately after. What is going on there? We have an E and a D, an E and a D. But the D moves. It goes to our E, C sharp, which matches the E better, right? So what Bach is doing, he's taking the D and he's carrying it over and then resolving it to the C sharp. David, I approve of your humor. I love it. See, right there, it wasn't right. because you have a fifth. So I have to prepare that F sharp, and I have to kind of anticipate the tuning of that F sharp. So it's really tricky. Okay. David, I'm trying to play along, but I wanted to type something. Good for you for trying to play along. I love that. I love it when you dolls tell me how you practice, or when you guys message me saying you had a fun time practicing. I absolutely love it. Yeah. So, kind of something I want to make one more note of is sometimes Bach, even though he's a traditional tonal composer, he'll overlap certain harmonies, and it does give some tension. And the example is that D and E. Now, with an E, that could be an A major chord. And the reason it's kind of in between, you do have that E in the bass, but you return to D. And then he puts a big emphasis on the C sharp. Okay, so he starts us off in D. We are kind of hinting at A major, and then we return to D. Now D and A, 1, 5, 1. And that's the next big point I wanted to make. When you have your home key, the most basic way and effective way to make tension for the listener is to do your home key, which we call 1, and then the key of your fifth. So if we're in D major, the fifth, 1, I'm not a singer, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is your A. So D goes to A major maybe, or an A chord. We'll get to that. It goes to an A chord, and it will come back to D. So if I want to find, let me see. A great example, well, let me find a good example. Where we are in D, we have a very clear 5 chord. Hold on. Da-na-na. Yeah, let's look at the ending of the first half of this. So I'm going to jump. We are in A major, and we know this because we have a G sharp accidental. There's that 7th. So that's a big indicator. Oh, we're in A major. So what I would recommend you dolls do with Bach, figure out your home key. It's the title of the suite. It's pretty easy. So we've been looking at the 6th suite, which is D major. Figure out your leading tone, C sharp. Okay. Then figure out your 5 key, which we did. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A major. Play your triad. Now, what's your 7th? G sharp. And then see where that G sharp is in your music. So we're talking about the leading tones of your home key and the leading tones of 5. The 3rd, sneaky. We're going back to that G sharp. There's a special kind of chord when the composer wants to make we have a question from Susan. What is your favorite Bach suite? Bach 5, which is on my YouTube channel. Wink. No, I'm not just giving it a plug. It's seriously my favorite suite. I love it so much. The saraband is just magic. And it has a fugue. And I think that's an amazing thing for a string instrument to play a fugue. So I think the 5th suite is really special. And I just performed it for my recital, so you guys can check that out on my channel. Bach 5. So we talked about the leading tones of 1, 5, and then a lowered leading tone of 5. So instead of a G sharp, G naturals could also be important because you have an A major chord. All right, cool. If they add that lowered 7th, that G goes so nice to that F sharp in D major. And this is called an A major 7 chord, but it sounds really complicated, so you don't have to remember it that way. Just think of a lowered 7. And that's usually what happens. So we're going to find an example. And we are in very much A major here. We just cadenced into A. Do you hear that G? Goes to F sharp. Ha! I'm not making it up. It's right here in the music. So Bach didn't go. It's not a complete A major scale. No. He makes it a G natural, that lowered 7th, because we're making our way back to D. Okay? But that's the other thing. If you have a lowered 7th, you want to play it a little flat. So if it's a true 7th, like a G sharp or a C sharp going to D, raise it. If it's lowered, Make it a little lower. We want to feel that pull to the F sharp. And then he tricks us. We're actually in A. And then we repeat. And we're back to D. So that was a lot. That was a lot of information. But quick recap before I go on to a different idea. Your home key of D, lower the third, lower the sixth, raise your leading tone or the C sharp. C sharp going to D. Okay? Then you want to find your 5 chord. So you count up. D, E, F, G, A major. So Bach, very typical of Bach. He likes to hover between the 1 and 5. So look for some G sharps, the leading tone of A. If you have a low G, very possible, you're going to be going 5-1 back to D. And if that can be very hard to see. So what I encourage you guys to do is to see if you can find arpeggios in the music or your triad. Okay? So I see we have an Artur, A-R-T-U-R. You're studying the prelude of the second Bach suite and it's too difficult. But I love the prelude. That's one of my favorite preludes. Let's look at it. Let's talk about the prelude to the second suite. All right. Artur, I really hope you're still online. I'm doing this for you. Yay! Okay. So, let's go through the steps. Now we're in a minor key. We are in D minor. So, oh, if you're in a minor key, you want a really lowered third. We talked about lowered thirds in a major key. You really want a lowered third if you're in minor. What a fun segue. We were in D major, now we're in D minor. Cool. And so I did that. I tonicized, meaning I played my scale and my arpeggio. I'm going to also play the harmonic minor. Let's see. Bach loves adding harmonic minor, meaning adding a higher raised seventh or our C sharp. So C sharps, you'll find in both D major and D minor of the Bach suites. C sharp is a very important note. Okay? And look at this. The beginning of the Bach second suite prelude. That's a triad. Guys, he's just opening with an arpeggio or a triad. It's technically a triad, but hello, he's establishing the key. C sharp, I'm not making it up. It's in the music. It's in the music. So we're in D minor. having a B flat. We're having a C sharp. What's going on with the music theory? Bach, what are you doing? Okay, this is a very complicated opening phrase. So how do you tune it? What's going on? So let's break it apart a little bit, okay? So we talked about lowering the F natural and raising the C sharp a little bit. So what I would recommend doing is going through each bar and seeing what kind of triads can you find. So a really easy way to see a triad, here's a little cheat sheet. If you see 3 stacked line notes, so notes on the line, or 3 stacked spaces, that's an instant triad. And right here, but the thing is, I have that A. So is it or? Which one is it? This is where Bach gets tricky. Okay? But if we look at the whole bar, he holds on to that B flat for quite some time. And B flat, we are not, get out of there, B flat. We are not in, it's not an A major. There's no B flat. So I think it's a C sharp, fully diminished. Right there. We have an E major diminished, E diminished, wait, no, we don't. Again, it's still the same thing. He's using the same notes. That's kind of jazzy. Yeah. So what in the world is a diminished chord? What's a diminished 7th? Cello doll, help me. Okay, I'll help you. Diminished 7. Imagine our minor chord. What if I made the A flat, super flat? So a diminished chord is basically a very super minor chord, where you also lower the top note. Okay? And sometimes, if you add one more note, that makes it a 7 chord. We just add one more note on top. That's a D diminished, half diminished. Don't worry about that. It sounds very jazzy. You see it a lot in jazz. Now, if it's fully diminished, 7, we're going to lower that too. So diminished 7, everything is lowered a half step. OMG. Okay? Everything's lowered a half step. The great thing about a fully diminished 7 chord, with 1/2 step, you can go to almost any key you want because it's all super half steppy. I know this is not very technical sounding, but I don't have time to get into the technical of it. So that's a very powerful chord, and Bach is using it right away. Archer, did you hear that? He puts us back in D minor with that triad. He hides it a little bit. Do you guys hear that? You could make a loop. Oh my God, I'm going to make a techno loop of that. Listen. Right? So basically, Bach began with our D minor triad. He played around in a C sharp diminished and then returned to that same triad. And another reason C sharp, why C sharp diminished? Why? What's our leading tone in D minor? C sharp. Yeah, it's a lot. And we've literally been playing 1 to 2 measures of each suite. Okay? So this special diminished chord is more common in the minor keys. Just as minor keys are also more complicated, so I was going to stay away from them, but I love hearing what Bach you guys are working on. Oh my God, I'm going to do a live stream. I've decided I'm going to do a future live stream where you guys have to tell me what Bach you're working on, and you get to pick one movement, and I'll give you tips. Are you funny? I try. I really try to be funny. I'm not always successful, but I try. So yeah, I would love to do that for a live stream sometime. You guys tell me one movement you're working on, and I'll give you like a 5-minute workshop, probably 10-minute workshop of some tips. Now, we've been talking a lot about harmony this way, right? We just played a whole phrase. But what about vertical harmony? And this is the part, excuse me. It's hard talking for an hour, guys. So the vertical harmony, and this is something that is trickier to see, myself included. It's kind of the next step for me, is the vertical harmony. And a great example of vertical harmony in Bach, the G major prelude. Perfect example of vertical harmony, because each measure, especially in the beginning, nearly every measure is a new chord. every measure. So, new chord. Excuse me. Oh my gosh. Bach, I'm so sorry I burped. You don't deserve me. I don't deserve you. You don't deserve me. I didn't mean it, Bach. I'm sorry. See, this is the beauty of live stream. If I did that in a video, I could just crop it out. But now it's on YouTube forever. It's going to come back to haunt me. Cello doll burps during Bach suite. New chord. New chord. New chord. Takes a turn. New chord. Okay. So in the section I just played, we went from G major, we returned to G major, and then we wind up in D. What is D in G major? 5. Our big old 5 harmony just came back. Just came back to us. Okay, so let's look at this one bar at a time. Too low. G major triad, but the B is over here. So that's 1. Good old G major. Nothing too complicated. What if I move the G and the C? That's a C major bar. So we go from G major to C major. If we're in C major, let's lower that third. C, D, E. Let's lower the E. What is that? I don't like how that's... What in the world is that bar? Oh, this is a great question. From Susanna, do you consider historical performance contexts when performing Bach? That is an excellent question. And I have to say, it's a little bit of a mix. I think it's a mix. I mean, a great part of the history is knowing this music theory. And Susanna, I don't know if you were with us from the beginning, but I did mention that knowing this music theory practice, because Bach pretty much set the standard. Yes, there were other composers, I know, but he was a major composer to set the standard for how classical music is structured. So by knowing the traditional harmony, you are, in a way, knowing the history of how Bach composed, but I'm guessing you also mean things such as Baroque instruments and how Baroque players performed in that time. And one thing that's very hard for me that I don't do is Baroque players usually did not use vibrato. And there are some performers who refuse to use vibrato in Bach. Hey, that's their choice. I mean, if they really if they really want to replicate what a Baroque performer does, and if you go to a Baroque themed concert, there are some ensembles out there that play on Baroque period instruments and they don't use vibrato. But we are also playing on a romantic instrument, the cello. Bach didn't write these for cello. He wrote them for a Baroque version of the cello, which is actually different. So I'm going to use vibrato in Bach. I think Bach is beautiful. Bach was an organist. An organ is super resonant, super sustaining. And I feel like if this cello was around in Bach's time, he would have absolutely had a field day. Another tradition and I'm not a Baroque expert, so I'm sorry if I get any of this wrong. I'm just speaking from what I remember from school. Another thing, Baroque players played on a different bow. So often, if you want to play, well, let's look at the D minor. Baroque instruments usually didn't play that full. And Baroque bows were more of an arc, and they had a big diminuendo at the tip. So if I wanted to sound a little more like a Baroque player or instrument, I would play closer to the fingerboard, less sustain, no vibrato. And it's a totally different character. Now, there are some spots I purposefully, there aren't that many, but there are some places I don't use vibrato for like a dramatic effect. But I hope that answers your question, Susanna. It's kind of like a mix. Here's a big thing in Bach, though, that is often agreed upon. I'm currently trying to work on the balance between contemporary and historical performance. Same, Susanna. Absolute same. It's a tricky balance. It really is. And really quickly, my dolls, here's the thing with Bach. Everyone has such strong opinions. Someone is going to love your performance. Someone's not. And that's true for every piece, but especially Bach. People have, myself included, I have so much sentimental value for Bach. So it's really hard. And, you got to honor the notes, the rhythms. You also have to enjoy playing it. That's really important. But a couple things about Bach that you dolls should keep in mind. They're very important. Slides. Like, what's a big famous slide piece? Oh, like the Swan. Everyone slides. You don't really slide in Bach. Sliding in your shifts is a very romantic idea. You also don't really hear slides a lot. Yes, glisses. I love me some glisses. You hear them not so much in classical music either, like Mozart, maybe in a concerto, but you don't really use them a lot. And that was really hard because when I was an undergrad, I loved slides and my teacher had to, you don't do that. It was really hard for me not to. So that's a big thing to too many opinions, but it's a good way of exploring. Absolutely. Yes. And that's the great thing about Bach is it can be played in so many different ways. So you can kind of find out what your own way is, how much you want to adhere to Baroque practice or play a more romantic version for a romantic instrument. But the other thing that I haven't, like I said, we don't have enough time in these hour streams, but another thing you dolls should really look into are the dances. Because each movement of Bach, other than the prelude, of course, is a suite that was popular in the time Bach was alive. And they come from different parts of the world, too. Oh my God, thank you. Young A. Clement. I enjoy so much your video. Thank you, and learning a lot from you. It's my pleasure to share. I just see it as I come on here, I put a camera in front of me, and I nerd out. And I'm so glad you guys learned something from it. But yeah, go through and learn a little bit about the dances. And the reason that's important, certain beats have more stress. Sometimes it's the downbeat, the first beat of the measure. Sometimes it's not. Is it a piece in 2, 4, 3 for your time signature? That will affect how you play it. So if you really want to have a historical deep dive, it's good to be aware of how they played it, but it's super important too to know about each dance. Wow, you actually answer. Of course I do. Of course I do. I'm hanging out with you guys. I watch the chat. So if any of you guys are mean or inappropriate, I'm going to know about it. Yeah. You would never do that. None of my dolls would ever do that. So we were talking, oh my gosh, we were in the first suite prelude, weren't we? But thank you, Susanna, for contributing that. Again, I really want to make helpful resources for you all. So it's very interesting for me to know what you guys are curious about. All right, we were looking at chords. Great exercise for the first suite. You have a slur. Well, it depends on what edition you use. The first 3 notes. Next measure. Hold them as chords. That's a great tuning exercise. Yeah, that's a great exercise for you guys, is to play the first 3 notes of each measure as a chord. I mean, it's more so for the first 8 bars or so. After that, you can't really do that. But yeah, let's look at these chords a little bit more. We have a G major chord. So we want to lower the 3rd in our chords, or the B. That was way too low. I'm sorry. And that's the thing. You got to come back to the same beat. C triad. So to find that triad, you might have to wiggle around the octaves of your notes because it doesn't look like a triad. They're not evenly spaced. So try C, C, E, G, C, E, G. It's a triad that way. So you might have to do a little bit of like note flipping with the octaves to figure out where the triads are, but that's a C major chord. And then now this, Bach is very sneaky. Well, right there, we return to G. So what's that other bar? What have we talked about? What likes to go to 1? 5. Well, what's 5 in G? D. And this is a tricky chord because there's no D. There's no D here. There's no root. So this is a hard bar to really understand. That would be something I have to show you, dolls, the music, but it's an implied D major chord because we do have the F sharp and we do have the C natural. Remember I talked about sometimes when you have a 5 chord, they add the 7th. Going to, okay, so that bar is a little trickier, but if you have bars like that in Bach that are very like, this is a chord, this is a chord, this is a chord, you want to lower the 3rd. So it's worth it to take the time to do this. Again, some of you dolls might not have had music theory class before, and this might totally sound like Greek to you, and that's okay. I really want you guys to at least be curious about this. And so we talked about the first suite, how it's stacked up with chords for the first 8 measures, definitely later on as well. But we talked about identifying the chords, lowering the 3rd, figuring out what harmony we're in. And then you have sections of Bach where you have to look at it long, like a phrase. I'm sorry, this camera keeps blurring out. That one is a really long idea, and we kind of went through it horizontally. Same thing with the Allemande. We talked the 6th suite. Oops. Okay, so that one is a longer idea. So I'll quickly address these couple questions before we sign off for today. I like playing better slurred. How to make even sound 5 and 6 notes at a time. What are you playing that's 5 and 6 notes? We only have 4 strings. Maybe you can rephrase your question and I can understand it better. If you wouldn't mind, I would love to answer you. In double stop arpeggios, my fingers lock. Finger locking. Yeah. That can be a tricky bit. A lot of string players go through that. In double stop arpeggios, so maybe walking, couple ideas. See how your thumb is doing. If the thumb is squeezing, your other fingers might also tense up. Like, do a quick experiment with your left hand and just flex your thumb, like clench it. Do you feel your other fingers react? Yeah, because our hand is interconnected. Don't do that a lot. But so if your thumb is tight, your fingers are going to also be tight and more likely to lock up. So I would recommend checking out your thumb for tension. And then have the arm be a little higher. If our arm is too low, this is a very common mistake that's made when you start cello. If your elbow's too low, you can't curve your fingers. So if your fingers are flat, now they can be curved. You see how my elbow's pulling down my fingers? So if your fingers are flat, they're also likely to lock. So I would recommend for you checking out your tension in the thumb. There's going to be a video about that soon. I want to make a tip vlog about thumb tension. That's a huge one. So I've been thinking of some cool ideas for you guys to practice that. And then making sure your left elbow is supporting your overall hand. Don't be like this. Don't do that. It's like Goldilocks. You have to find something in the middle. Young A. Clement, I wish I could answer your question. I like to play. Oh, I think you mean 5 or 6 notes in a slur. Okay, I think I understand your question because of the Bach prelude. I think what you mean is running out of bow. I'm pretty sure that's what you mean. So a little trick for long slurs, you actually start off with a slower bow, and then you get a little faster. Because the tendency is, you run out. So if you save some bow, you're gonna have more weight. You're right here. More weight. You don't have to worry about a full sound. Your weight is right by the frog. But as you get out to the tip, this is why you start out slow. And then you speed it up a little bit. It's harder to sustain at the tip. So that's kind of the end goal. Another exercise, take a scale. 4 notes. Quarter, 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 quarter. That's a good way. If you're comfortable with 4, be super comfortable with 4 notes before you think about 5 or 6. Because the first example with Bach, I'm talking about not being even on every single note, a little less, and then you open up the length here. But you also need to be able to measure out your bow evenly, because you might there are going to be situations where you want even length on each note. So take a scale. you at the halfway point by 2 notes? Halfway. 1, 2, halfway. Then make it 5. Then make it 6. Okay, so a great place to do that warm up is your scale. I really hope that helps. Grand Ritter, that's the price you pay for not having to breathe. He's a flautist, I believe. For those of you who might be confused. Yeah. Well, we still do have to breathe. We should breathe. But yeah, our bow is very much like our breath as it is for a wind instrument. Well, thank you so much, my dolls. Thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out with me and listening to some Bach. And who knows what's coming next month? I do these live streams on the last Tuesday of every month. They're my Cello Tip Tuesday the lab show with Cello Doll and Celli, last Tuesday of every month. So we'll see you in May, end of May, and by then I'll be 28. Yeah, my birthday's coming. I'm very excited. Very excited. So I hope you all are well. I hope you enjoyed this. Stay well, stay safe. You all are most welcome. And I love our little community here that we're building together. Cello Power Love. And I look forward seeing you dolls soon. If you have any friends who are interested in cello music, please share the channel. It really helps to spread the word. If you guys aren't subscribed, please subscribe. It absolutely helps. And oh, thank you guys so much. It's really sweet. So yeah, if you have any friends who love cello music, share the channel. Why not? Let's get more dolls here. Bye, everyone. Have a good night or day, depending on where you are. We'll see you soon.